You are listening to Detroit Craft Academy, episode number 3.
Academy, Detroit Crafts with Jody. Detroit Craft Academy.
Hi, thanks for tuning in to Detroit Craft Academy, episode number 3. I am your host, Jody Lynn, and today I will be talking with Michigan artist Jason Gibner. He is a painter, podcaster, and master of dance parties. I hope that you all enjoy. Well, cool. Thanks so much for coming and being on here. So just to start off, why don't we talk a little bit about your background and where you think maybe like your creativity came from?
So background, I've been pretty much drawing for as long as I can remember. I always loved drawing. I always loved comic books. Mad Magazine was a huge influence when I was a little kid. And I was just always drawing. I loved drawing. I loved reading stories. I always loved movies a lot. I got into music early. Like anything artistic, creative, I was just naturally drawn to. Kind of like as we all were, probably.
Was your family, did you like come from a creative family at all?
Not at all.
No?
Like as far away from that as you could ever possibly get. But my grandfather, who passed away when I was just really small, like not even 2, he liked to draw. But it was a different time, like 50s, 60s, 40s,
None of that art stuff.
Yeah, no, it was kind of frowned upon, but one time I was going through at my grandma's house, this is years ago when I was still in high school, some of his old stuff. They were like, oh, we should probably move some of this stuff out, or what are we going to do with it? Like these like chests and cabinets and stuff full of stuff. And he had some of his sketchbooks, and it straight up freaked me out because his sketchbooks looked exactly like my drawings, like the way I did eyes, the way I did noses.
Whoa.
Like just real simple, and I was just like, it freaked me out because I was like, wait, did I draw this? What's going on here? It tripped me out for a while.
So that was nothing you ever did with them? Like you never drew with them or anything when you were a kid? Like
no, I was a baby.
Oh, okay.
When he passed away. So
whoa.
No. Yeah. So that was tripped out. So I don't know, however people want to take that, But no, it really kind of confused my parents, like my drawing and whatever the heck I was ever doing. They were kind of like, well, what, is it a waste of time? But then I would start to win little grade school awards or something, or, stuff like that.
So did you grow up in Michigan?
Yeah, I grew up in Michigan, born in high school in Muskegon, and then college was Grand Rapids. And then I moved out here. Well, I moved out to Ann Arbor in 2000.
And Jason, where did you go to college? Did you go to art school?
Yes, I went to arts at Kendall College, Art and Design in Grand Rapids. Yeah. Fine arts grad, painting. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you are a man of many great things. You do painting. You do Star Wars podcast, which is awesome.
Yes,
and you get the dance party going.
Yeah.
So how do you go from student to podcaster, painter, and dance party extraordinaire? Like, what did you do first?
I went to Kendall. I went there for 5 years and graduated in 99. And I was totally burned out. I was like, I was still drawing like comics and stuff a little bit, but like painting wise, like after doing like a thesis show and like the kind of craziness of a last year of art school, I was just like, I don't even feel like painting and I didn't for the longest time. And then when we moved to Ann Arbor, I moved with my friend Jeremy Wheeler, who's a pretty accomplished artist in his own right, to say the least. He does poster design. Everybody's probably seen it out there. And I moved with my friend Lewis, who's making crazy music videos for a bunch of bands, like metal bands in Detroit right now. He's also crazy talented. So the three of us moved from Grand Rapids to Ann Arbor. And we started going to a place in Windsor called The Loop.
Oh, I remember that place.
Never forget The Loop. So, and we had the bright idea of thinking after 9/11 that it was still okay to go to Windsor every Friday night. Quickly, I think it was that weekend. We were like, let's go to The Loop anyways. Who cares? And we were like, okay, yeah, we're not going to go to Windsor anymore. So we were like, well, we'll start our own. And that's kind of where the Bang came from. And the first Bang dance party was November 2001. So that technically kind of was first.
Yeah. So when did Jason Gibner painting come into fruition?
Yeah, so that was Jeremy was doing, I think, a shadow art fair in Ypsilanti.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of said, like, you should do it with me, because he got a table as the Bang, and we were like going to promote the Bang, but he was also going to have his posters, and he was like, well, you should do like some paintings or something to sell. And I did maybe like about 10 or something. Well, you know me now,
you have like
I come to a show with like
bajillion.
a bajillion, but I was rolling into like shadow art with like 10 paintings and thought that was crazy. So, and it went really well, and I really liked it, and I sold a few, and it was like a really cool feeling, to kind of be like, oh wow, like I could make these paintings that aren't academic or aren't school based, or I'm not being critiqued by a professor on these. I can just make things that are fun, that make me happy, and they make other people happy too. Mm-hmm. And people will give me money for them, and that's fantastic. That's how that kind of started. And then I worked for Borders at the time in Ann Arbor. And my wife and I were having a baby, and like we were like, well, how are we going to pay for, like, what are we going to do with work? And like, what are we going to do when we work, and where's the baby going to go? And that's so ungodly expensive. And I was just like, well, my job sucks at Borders. It's a crappy place. Well, the people I worked with were fantastic, but the job sucked. And I was like,
most big major corporation places to work.
The people that worked there were the best, and I'm still friends with all of them.
Oh, that's awesome.
The job's lousy. So anyways, I was like, well, I'm going to quit, because I don't want to be working here thinking, what am I doing here when, and pretty much the money from my paycheck taking out is the same as if we paid for having the baby to, I don't know, childcare or something, like daycare or something. So I was just like, well, I'll stay home with the baby. And my wife was like, well, what are you going to do? Because we still got to have more money than just the money she makes coming in. And I was like, well, maybe this painting thing can lead to something. I'll do this. I'll do more shows. I'll apply for local shows around Detroit and Ann Arbor and wherever. And now it's been like 8 years of that.
8 years. That's awesome.
It's been, and now I sit there at a show and people walk by and they're like, oh, there's that guy again.
I love your paintings. They're so fun. How many do you think you've done, like, just in total? Like, that's 8 years of paintings. I can't believe you actually paint every single one.
Every single one is handmade. It's crazy. It's got to be in the thousands, right? Because like, just for like holiday shows, I do about 200 new ones. So times that by, and that's been kind of the trend for the past 5 years. So that's 1,000 right there. So I would say it's in the thousands.
That's awesome. There's like a whole bunch of Jason Gibners everywhere.
Yeah, it's crazy because now I've been doing shows for so long
Hmm.
that people come up to me with like grown children and they'll be like, "This is the guy that did the painting that's been in your room since you were a baby." And it's like, "Oh, wow, you know."
How the heck did you get into doing a Star Wars podcast? Other
Um,
than just being an amazingly big fan of Star Wars.
yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty obsessive fan of Star Wars, and it was I was listening to a bunch of other Star Wars podcasts,
Hmm.
and kind of without even thinking, I was thinking like, you know how you think of stuff and you have good ideas, but you don't even know you have good ideas, you know, until you like explain them to somebody else, and they're like, "Oh, you should actually do something with that idea." So
Hmm.
that's kind of a vague answer, but I was listening to a lot of Star Wars podcasts at the time, and without knowing, almost kind of taking notes on what I liked and stuff, some stuff I didn't like, or oh, if they talked about this, this would be really funny or really good. And actually, it was I think it was a couple years ago. You know, like on your birthday, how everybody on Facebook says happy birthday. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
somebody that does a Star Wars podcast that I listen to said happy birthday to me, like on my birthday. And I said to my wife, I was like starstruck for 5 minutes. I was like, blah, 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 said happy birthday. And she's like, I don't know who the heck that is. And I was like, oh, he does this Star Wars podcast. And she's like, well, why don't you do a Star Wars podcast? You could do one really well. And I was like, you know what? I could. And so
Oh.
I got my friend Gabe, who was my roommate in college. He does video game stuff out in Chicago now. But we've always been like on the same level of Star Wars fan.
Hmm.
And I felt like we had a good back and forth, the two of us. And so I asked him if he would do it with me. And he said yes. And we started it just about a year ago now. So we're still pretty new. But we had a great first year. It's been super crazy rewarding. Like, you know, people writing you from the UK and Japan, and
Yeah,
you know,
it's
people tell you, go ahead.
oh no, I was just saying like it's awesome. Like I've listened to a whole bunch of them. I'm like this is so much fun.
Yeah, it's really fun to do. Like, it's the same with like the paintings or, you know, anything creative. It's such a good feeling if there's something you're passionate about and you put it out there for people, and they, even if some people are just like, hey, I like that thing that you do,
Hmm.
this
That's
creative thing that you do, it's just kind of like, wow, okay, that's great.
yeah. Yeah. It's really amazing like when you can actually make something and people like it. I know sometimes I like sit there and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I kind of feel like a fraud. Like I'm getting away with something and
Yeah.
nobody knows that I'm getting away with it."
Right. Right.
So, so what would you say is your biggest source of inspiration? What continues to inspire you every day?
It's like for all the stuff, it's like as long as I'm still having fun doing it.
Hmm.
If it ever becomes like a job or a chore or something I don't want to do, then I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, if it's, as long as it's still like any of them still making me smile, like the bang or painting or the podcast now, as long as I look forward to it and I'm excited to do the next one, because, you know, with any creative endeavor, you don't know what's going to happen next. And
Hmm.
you have to wait until you do it to kind of surprise yourself and be excited by it. And as long as I still feel that way about any of these things, then that's what I'll keep going.
So, what have been some of the greatest challenges you have had to overcome creating all of these different things and continuing with them?
I think with any of them, it's balancing expectations either that you create for yourself or that you feel like whatever you read on the internet or something of what you should be doing versus what you're actually doing and what feels right to you. You know, it's the head versus heart debate. Like, oh, because anything with any kind of running your own business, there's people lining up to tell you what you should be doing. And sometimes they're right. And sometimes you just got to, maybe
Yeah.
you fail. You got to do what you got to do it yourself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like it's almost, I don't know, maybe if you've noticed this at all, but sometimes just like looking online at Facebook and Instagram and seeing what everyone else is doing, it's like, oh no, should I be doing that too?
Oh, yeah. Or even doing a craft show. We've all been there where you sit there at a craft show and let's say the door's open and the person across from you just made like a massive sale
Uh-huh.
and you haven't. And you're like, well, what are they? And it's not so much like, well, why them and not me? It's like, well, what are they doing that I'm not? And then 5 minutes later, you make the massive sale. But there's always that little tinge in your head of,
He,
what are the neighbors up to?
yeah.
And it's good too, like where I feel like we've done so many and have been around for so long that I like being kind of like, let me help you. Let me help you explain. Here's how this show works, and here's the ins and outs, and this is normal, and don't get freaked out.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely. So, okay, I love this question because it makes me really happy. What's the weirdest thing somebody has ever said to you when they come up to your booth at a show?
Oh my God. They're so, my paintings kind of invite weirdness anyways, so, and I've done enough shows where I've been by you where I've had complete weirdos. Let me think, because gosh, there's been so many, and I'm at the point now where I just kind of roll with it and it doesn't really faze me anymore. I get a lot of, because I do so many like pop culture based paintings.
Mm-hmm. Is it? I know what you should do.
Yeah, you know what you should do?
Mm-hmm.
You should do this. And sometimes I'm just like, people flip through my stuff. And like, if you flip through my stuff, I'd say it's like about 50% weird robots and things that I came up with, and 50% Star Wars or Star Trek, but it's mostly just like Star Wars or Star Trek, and occasionally it'll be like something else. But people will come up to me and pull out the most obscure, or maybe not even as obscure, like new nerdy thing. And I'll be like, no, seriously, I have no clue what you're talking about. Like, I do not know what that is.
Some underground comic that's so underground you don't even know about it.
Yeah, or some cartoon that's out now. And they're like, I can't believe you don't know about this show. And I'm like, I don't. No clue what that is.
I get that too because of the scientists that I draw on the things. I just have people come up to me and they're like, oh, you know this scientist? I'm like, no, I have no idea who that is. Like, I should know everyone.
Yeah, totally. I've had weird commission requests too that I've just had to tell people like, no, I don't think I can, paint a picture of like your dead relative and this dog, like in a sci-fi setting or something. I don't think that's going to work,
Yeah. How, like, so you went to school for painting. How much different are your paintings now to what you did in school? Like, obviously you have a painting background, so.
Yeah. There's no way they would ever let me do what I do now in school. But to me, they are very close relatives because it's the same. It's acrylic paint. I've stuck with that. The color palette is very, very similar. I didn't use markers in college because on my paintings now I use markers, but I used charcoal. So it was still the black over the paint, but it was much more, when you're in art school, and I was like 21, 22,
yeah.
you're still very, very deep and very, very serious, and
everything is very serious in art school.
So serious. You're not allowed to laugh. And So I had to. Things were much more serious, and you had to have an artist statement, and things had to be very introspective, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like they are still now, but it's just kind of a more of a reflection of me now. Like I'd much rather have fun
Yeah.
doing like a little green monster or a robot than
Uh-huh.
some deep soul searching right now.
Yeah. No, it's way more fun. Like, why
I'm
would
done
you
with
want to
that
be
crap.
serious now, right?
Yeah, who cares?
Who
There's
cares?
enough serious stuff out there. You know what I mean?
I feel the same way. I can't, like, every single time. Oh, well, no.
No.
Putting my headphones on now.
Yeah.
Oh. So, like, if you could go back in time to when you first began all of this,
Mhm.
the whole thing, what advice would you give yourself?
Not to get so worried that and I still do it, and not to get so worried, not to worry so much about details or don't put too much pressure on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's the one thing we all fall into. It's why we're all such a wreck in like November and December, because it's tough, because when you are the sole person that's responsible for making this stuff, and and most of us are such control freaks that even though sometimes people are like, well, can I help you? You seem like you're having a hard time. You're like, no, I
No, absolutely not.
have to do it all myself. And and it's kind of the reminder that we all do to ourselves, that like you can only do what you can do. And
Right.
chances are that's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
just take a deep breath and you're going to be all right. But it's kind of like once I started doing shows, and once people started buying paintings and it was great, then you start to, let's say a Detroit Urban Craft Fair comes along, or a Dipsy comes along, like a big great show, and you're like, oh my god, like time management is really good. Making
horrible. Horrible at that.
making schedules, like I am so like controlling with it. I will make like a mini calendar
Mm-hmm.
and what I have to get done every single day, and that helps me to kind of not freak out and be like, this is what I've allotted myself to do today, and I will
Oh,
do no more. I can do less, but no more than what I have written down what it is to do today. So I've gotten a lot better, but yeah, time management, and just keep having fun and don't freak out.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh my God. I don't know if you do this too, but like every year for Detroit Urban Craft Fair, uh, I always like make that as the big show that like that's where all of my goals need to be met by Detroit Urban Craft Fair every single year, and it never happens.
No.
It's unrealistic goals.
Yeah, and that's a thing too, that like keep your goals, don't get too crazy, like even goals in what you can make, what you can do, and weigh your expectations in what you're going to make in terms of money. Keep
Hmm.
all that kind of loose,
Yeah.
you know, because we've all been there too, where it's like you can have still a good show, like a real good show, but if last year you made X amount and this year you made whatever, you can't compare it. It's like, no, it's still really good, you
Yeah.
know?
You never know who's going to be running for president. Uh,
Everyone in the country is literally bummed out. Yeah.
yeah. I don't think it's been sunny in the past week. Just throwing
No,
that out there.
it's tripping me out that like the sun hasn't been out for 2 weeks.
Well, he put a notice to block the sun from
Yeah, I
coming out.
know. Bummer. He ruined my birthday was the 20th, and
Oh.
he ruined that. And I was kind of
Mm.
mad. I was just like, I already wasn't keen on you, and
I
people were
will
too bummed.
I will never eat a Cheeto again. So do you have any like big cool plans for 2017 other than hiding under the bed?
Um, you know, uh, I want to have more new paintings. I'm looking forward to getting back into that. I always like kind of after Christmas and like January and stuff because I'll still do like commissions here and there, but I'm not crazy painting machine like I do later. So it's kind of a nice break, and it's always good to get kind of back into it. I'm going to be at the Star Wars Celebration out in Orlando.
Ooh.
And that's going to be, it's like a big 4-day giant Star Wars convention.
Do you bring
And that's going to be
all your
what's that?
paintings?
No paintings. It'd be too much. And I just like going around, but we're going to be promoting the podcast pretty hard there. So that'll be fun. And then right after that, I'll be at the Motor City Comic Con with paintings. And that's kind of like my first big show of 2017. And that's a really fun one. So looking forward to that and kind of getting back into it in the summertime and ramping it up. And yeah, hopefully lots of new ones.
And you have a bang coming up soon,
Yes.
right?
Yes, the Love Bang in February. We're doing like 2-3 a year now. We've cut way back. We used to do one every single month. And
I used to be, well,
Yep.
so everyone knows, you and I, like, I was trying to think about this before. I was like, gosh, how long have I known Jason Gibner for? Because you used to sneak me and Richie into the bang. And
so that was like a good, 17 years ago?
yeah, that was quite a while ago.
So yeah, we're doing a Valentine's one on the 11th, and that'll be really great. It's always a fun one. It's always a really good one down at the Blind Pig in Ann Arbor. And it's good to go back and do that. You know, it's kind of weird because it's like I'm, like a 40-year-old guy throwing this dance party for college kids.
That's okay, though. You've been doing it for so long that, like, you know how to you make the party happen.
Yeah. So it's still super fun to do. And it's like I was saying, it's like, at this point, it's just like, it's about, we love the people that we do it with so much. We've been doing it for so long that it's just always great to see everybody and get everybody together for one night. And all right, let's do this bang thing that, that we do. And here's these kids dancing, and it's awesome. It's great.
Yeah, it's honestly like one of my favorite dance parties I've ever been to. Every other one, just like when I got out of college and I went to all the dance parties, and then there was yours, and I was like, oh, it's not as good as the bang.
Well, thank you.
So as far as other shows go this year, do you have anything in the bag for traveling?
Last year, I branched out and did some different shows than I hadn't done before. And I tried going to like some new cities. I did the first one. I did a Grand Rapids Comic Con. And it's interesting. It's interesting going to somewhere where you do it all the time, where you go somewhere new and you have to explain your whole shtick to somebody. It's like, instead of being like I was saying, like, oh, there's that guy again, you kind of got to be like starting over.
So with going to new cities, did you find that it helped your sales at all? Or
kind of not,
because people hadn't seen you before.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of sales nowadays are repeat customers. I have where people were like, I got 2 of your paintings 2 years ago, and I wanted to get a third one or something like that. But it's just interesting having to kind of start over in going to a new city and explaining everything that you do and kind of what it's all about. And yeah, there's 300 paintings here, and what your story is to people and stuff. It's interesting. And especially going back to Grand Rapids was crazy because I went to school there and I graduated in 99, and the city's changed so much and it's got a whole new identity to it. And, if I try and tell people, well, it's like, I used to go to school here, I used to live here, it's like, well, when? And it's like, well, a long time ago. It's like people do not care,
Oh,
it's
yeah, they
like,
don't care at all. They're like, okay, yeah,
yeah,
cool story,
that Grand
bro.
Rapids is gone.
Is
So
it?
that's all. So it's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I find when I travel a lot, because when you have to explain yourself every single time you go to a new show or a new city or new people come up to your booth, it's like your written artist statement, right?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
But like
Hmm.
you're actually speaking it. And I had to write an artist statement at the beginning of this year for something. And that has been something I have always had the worst time doing, is
Oh,
writing an artist statement. And I pulled out my like book, some book that I bought after school, like, oh, this is how you get into galleries, or da 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 da. And then there's the chapter how to write an artist statement. I like read the first paragraph. I'm like, dude, I got this. Do it I say this every single day.
totally. Yeah, it's like, when you have to write a little something about yourself for like a show application. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, in a way, right there, you're writing your artist statement.
Yeah, yeah. It's so I'm really like it makes me happy that I've approached art in this direction.
Yeah.
The whole gallery thing.
Yeah, and I've done like it's a handful of gallery stuff and little things just around Ann Arbor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really fun, and I would like to do more. And I like doing my style of paintings and putting them up in a gallery because sometimes, I don't know, part of me, I like pissing off serious fine artists, still to this
Yeah.
day.
I think maybe that's the part of me that is like feels like we're getting away with something, right?
Right, yeah.
Like, oh, you spent your entire past 10 years just trying to get a solo show. Oops.
Well, my paintings are very, very inexpensive. Though they're $20 and the big ones are 40.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but part of that comes from, I remember at that senior show, the people that were in my fine arts department who were, in their early 20s were selling their stuff off the wall for $500, $600, $700. And I was like, come on, people. Like, that is not worth
Yeah, like
five,
this is the first thing you
six.
ever painted.
Yeah, come on. But people were paying for it. And, I don't know, part of me is just like, if so many kids that want to buy my paintings too, and I feel like $20 is a nice number, and it's like, I feel like I'm being fair to people, and,
Yeah.
you know,
Uh-huh.
and I like that. I've never been a big fan of snobby kind of high art, fine art culture. It just makes
Yeah.
me mad. Yeah.
Sometimes it makes me mad too. Actually, like it's so funny. I don't know, like sometimes I just say to myself, I'm like, oh my God, I hate art. Is that like a thing? I think like artists really, truly, most of the time, hate art.
Yeah, I think it's like if you,
You can just
you know,
see through it.
yeah, you see kind of that it can be a sham, kind of, and there's a lot of ego and personality and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And thankfully, everyone I'm friends with, like my close circle of friends, we all kind of share the same just keep it fun
Yeah.
philosophy.
You know, I feel like the majority of Michigan is like that though.
Yeah.
Like I feel like Michigan's just like really together with its art scene. It's like, oh cool, you want to do that? I'll support you. It's awesome.
Hmm.
Let's do this. Jump on my art train. Not
Well,
art
and
train.
yeah, you think like how much Dipsy, Andy Troy Craft Fair, and even Betty Jessica with Handmade Toledo, just doing these shows, how
Mm-hmm.
much that creates a community and creates friends and like an artist network and a supportive group for everyone of
Yeah.
all different kinds of art. And I think that does a lot for um, us all kind of supporting each other.
Yeah. It's almost like for me, at least, it was like building that high school clique that I never actually had 10
Right.
years later.
Yeah. And it's always just great seeing, doing shows and seeing all these people, because we'll like spend like January, February or something, March, where we don't see everybody, and then like the summertime happens and it's like, okay, here we go. Here's all my old buddies, like.
Yay! Oh, yeah. It's very strange, like just being right now, it's end of January, and you got that like that whole time off thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first year that I've actually been not freaking out about like, oh shit, when are the shows gonna start? What am I gonna do?
Yeah. No, I haven't been either, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always nice when you finish that last commission or that last thing and kind of just putting all your stuff away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I did it.
Yeah, done. Have you even looked at your paintings yet? Like, have you gotten them out since?
Yeah.
What was your last show? Detroit Bird Craft Fair?
Dipsy.
Dipsy, okay.
Dipsy. And my Etsy store was massively, I had nothing on it, literally. It was empty. And so I had to go through all my paintings and kind of redo everything for the Etsy store. And I did that about 2 weeks ago. And it was 200 something paintings. And it took like...
Do you list each one? Because each one's a little bit different.
And people are weird where, God bless them, they'll be like, no, I like that one better than that one. Just subtle, tiny differences.
Yeah.
So I put them all up there. And so that was really nice too, kind of going through everything I had, what I had left over, and cataloging it and putting it all up on the site. And some people have been buying some stuff, and so that's good to get, going through it and keeping it going.
Cool. Yeah, keeping yourself busy in the off season.
Right, yeah.
You got to find something to do. Yeah, so I'm sure the podcast keeps you pretty busy. You've been doing it like 2 or 3 years now?
Oh, just 1 year. We started a year ago. We started in January of 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So just 1 year. We have this weekend we'll record our 58th episode.
Wow. So do you guys do one like every week or?
Every week. Yep. Every single week. I used to, my idea in the beginning was that we'd mix it up, and I would do every week or every other week with Gabe and then do an interview to kind of mix it up. But it was interesting where, like, looking at the numbers of listeners, people didn't, no matter who I was interviewing, like I could interview George Lucas and people would be like, don't care. People liked me and Gabe together.
Oh, that's awesome.
We were just like, well, this is what people want. This is what people like. This is what people are responding to. Mm-hmm. So let's stick with that.
Yeah.
So
that's
we do it every single week. It's fun. It's really fun because we like to, I feel like both he and I like some of the weirder aspects of Star Wars, some of the more obscure.
I love the news. Like, it makes me so happy. Like, it'll be about a Star Wars toy.
And we joke and we goof. We just goof
so
around a lot.
Good.
We take it very seriously, but then we don't. It's hard to explain. We make fun of stuff a lot. We just go on weird tangents, and it's fun. And that's like it's like the best podcasts are like. I feel like the best podcasts when people relate to them are ones where you feel like you're friends with the people that you're listening to. Mm-hmm. And if you're just listening in on a fun, entertaining conversation, then that's what works. And I feel like we do that. I hope we do that. I don't know. I don't want to wax my car too much, but
you guys have a really good dynamic together, which is awesome.
Oh, thanks. When we love Star Wars, like a lot, like a crazy amount.
I can tell. It makes me, like, I watched it when I was a kid. I'm embarrassed to say that I haven't seen I haven't, like, gone through and rewatched them again. But And I have watched the new ones. So,
Well, I remember when we shared the room together at Dipsy, I feel like at times it was like almost a Star Wars overload for you.
yeah.
Where like people coming in and talking to me, and at a certain point you were just like,
The
this is
party
too
room.
much. Yeah, this is
The
too
party
much
room.
Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, so I feel sometimes people think that way with my scientists, though, because
Yeah.
or if I booth next to somebody, quite often, what happens is I'll continue to tell the stories of whatever scientist, Tycho Brahe getting his
Yeah.
nose chopped off or something like this. I've heard this story like 15 times. Well, it's history. It really happened.
Yeah. That's the thing too with doing a craft show next to someone where you hear, like we were saying, your shtick that you tell people, you hear that
hmm
over and over and over.
Yeah.
It's good though.
Well, it works though too because if I'm like, "Hey, Jason, I'm gonna go get some food," you can
Yeah.
sell everything for me. It's like, oh
I know.
yeah, I know the story behind this.
Yeah. I know the prices of everything, and yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's funny that you were uh talking just earlier about how going back to how your paintings you feel like the palette hasn't changed at all like from when you first began. But like
Yeah.
when I was looking through your paintings earlier and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like he just has so much his own style that
Mm.
like even if he ever did change, like I would totally be able to tell it's Jason Gibner."
Yeah. No, and that's I've had friends tease me that I still dress exactly the same way I did in when I was in college in the 90s, and I'm very much I think it's why I like Wes Anderson movies.
Yeah.
Like people just wear one set of clothes and through a whole movie, or I like things that are very um I don't want to say predictable, but I like routine.
Oh, I
But
do
not in a
too.
weird crazy way, but there's a comfort in routine. And I think like my paintings are um very much that.
Yeah.
I had a guest um like a guest critique person in college, and she, in college I would do the same thing where I would do 10, 15 paintings,
Mhm.
just, and they were like a series, and maybe they were connected in some weird way or they won't, but I just did a bunch of them and whatever. But I had a guest person come in for a critique, and they just didn't get it at all.
Right.
They were just ripping me a new one, and it was fine. Um, but they were saying that, I think you have like a obsessive compulsive disorder, you know, because you just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again in all these paintings, and they're just subtly different. And I was like, well, maybe, yeah, but that's what I like. So,
Yeah.
and I still very much like someone could come up to my table at a show and be like, you are legit crazy. Like, this is the work of a certifiably insane person.
I
Like
love that.
you did what, 15 paintings of Chewbacca and they're all exactly the same. And I'd be like, yeah,
Yeah. That's what I
or
do.
subtly different. Like, yeah, but you know, that's what I like doing. It's
Yeah.
weird.
It's really cool though cuz like you have your own style. I feel like a lot of people really worry that if they are put out there, like they won't have their I've just like I had a conversation the other day with somebody that was really worried about whether or not their style was fluent enough to be seen.
Mm.
Like it wasn't an issue because I mean I could totally tell.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, and I think there's something to be said to that of, um, it's good to be a little humble,
yeah,
and, you know,
yeah, no, totally.
I think,
I think, yeah, like, don't, there's so many, yeah. Like, I haven't really met anyone yet that's like, my stuff's so awesome. And,
Yeah. I feel like I
or
have,
maybe I have, but no names will be dropped.
yeah, I mean, we've all shared or been next to someone at a craft show where you're just like, oh my God, but
Uh-huh.
um yeah, I think, there's that artists are all so weird. We're
Yeah.
such weird people, and we're all in between, somewhere in between, like complete crazy ego monsters and little, yeah, like hiding under the table, freaked
Yeah.
out. We're
Yeah. Well, it's like
that's
it's just like I don't know, like art being an artist is a disease. You're somewhere on the spectrum.
right. Um, I mean, I think art school definitely helps because you got to have bad critiques
Yeah.
and you got to have people, like I was saying, just rip you. You got to have people tell you that you suck, and you got to have it in yourself to be able to get back up and keep going or not cry about it. Because the thing doing a craft show, it's not for the weak. Like,
Oh
someone
no.
can walk right up and tell you to your face, and people will, that you suck,
Oh
or
yeah.
their kid could do what you're doing, or your stuff's too expensive or whatever, and you got to just whatever.
Yeah. That's the whole thing cuz like you're dealing with the general public, and if you work at like, if you're selling at a craft show, sometimes they won't even take into consideration that like, oh yeah, the artist is standing right there.
Mhm.
And just the things that people say. That's awful. I'm going to do an entire episode and collect people's stories of things that people have said to them behind the table.
My favorite is when, let's say you're doing an outdoor show, like something like DIY Street Fair or something,
Mhm.
and you have like a whole road like apart from you and like the other side, and you'll see people looking at your stuff and they're like whispering to each other, and it's
Oh.
almost just like I can see you and I can see you're whispering.
Uh-huh. Like, oh, you're on the other side of the street and you're whispering like your body language. I don't know.
Yeah, like, do you like it? Do you think it sucks? Whatever. I don't know. It's fine.
Oh, yeah. My favorite, like, I don't, you always get those people too. It's like, we were talking about earlier about like pricing, and how ridiculous sometimes art could be super expensive. But like $20 for a painting, that's an awesome price. And then
Oh yeah.
you'll have those people that'll just like pick it up. Oh, I'm not going to pay $20 for this and put it back. And it's just, people have the weirdest idea about what things they value to spend money on.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah. How much are these? 20? Oh, put it back. And it's like, well, what did you want to spend? Or like the first day of a show, like, you know, if I buy two, can you give me a deal?
mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, not today.
Oh, yeah. If I ask you to do a custom one, would you do one for $20? Like, no, I'm not gonna go home and make you something custom with your face on it for the same price.
Hmm.
Uh,
That's my favorite. And I had that a couple times this year where people contact me about commissions. And I say, well, for commissions, it'll be this, because commissions, I'll do it on like an actual like stretched canvas,
mhm.
and it's a little bit fancier. And people be like, well, at a show, your paintings are $20 or $40. How come it's more? And it's like, well, number one, it's December. Um, Number two, I'm painting a picture of your family, or something.
Yeah, because
And it's like, I want to get like I want to get everybody looking somewhat like the real people. And I don't know.
yeah,
People are weird.
it always surprises me. I love custom work, but I hate custom work at the same time. I think the worst one that I've ever had is I had a girl that wanted me to draw a portrait of her. She kept writing, my hair's not that way. It's more curly. And can you draw me skinnier? Draw her skinnier. Can you? My legs aren't that fat. Can you make my legs skinnier? I'm like, you're. This is like you're turning yourself into a cartoon. I don't do
Yeah,
cartoons.
yeah. At that point, it's just like, no,
Yeah,
I
I
can't.
ended up like firing her, which was the
Yeah,
first and only time I've done it. I was like, actually, like you could just keep the drawing JPEG that I sent you. I'm not gonna. No, you don't even have to worry about paying me. It's not worth my time anymore.
it was actually Carrie that gave me the best advice with commission stuff, where she was just like, you let them know how much it's going to be. You maybe give them a rough drawing, but then you don't show them anything until it's done.
Mm,
And
yeah,
she was just like, and you remind them that you're the artist and you're the one calling the shots here. And
that
I was, because in the beginning, I was so like almost flattered to get commissions that I'd be like, I'll pay whatever you want for whatever price you want.
Mhm.
And I was getting just run over by people.
Yeah.
Or I was like finishing a painting and then they're like, I don't like it. And then okay, I'll redo it. And it's like, I was telling her about it sometime and she was just like, no, 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 no. You call the shots. You're in charge.
It's sometimes you just need those people to like drop wisdom bombs like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a wisdom bomb right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I always like, whenever I get like emails about commissions or something, like it's like a little floating Carrie Gustafson head next to me.
Oh, it's
It's like,
perfect.
you're in charge. You're the boss. It's like, thank you, Carrie.
You got this.
Yeah. A little high five in the sky.
Oh. All right, one more. One more.
Okay.
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 Dream project. If you could work on any project, what would it be?
I'd love to do something hand in hand with Star Wars, in any way, to be like personally involved in any project, or to be like, I don't know, to be involved in anything officially Star Wars in any way. I don't even know exactly what that is, but just because I love it so much,
Yeah.
and
It's
to
like,
kind of be like, I in some way contributed, which I guess at the podcast I do, but not in an official sense.
yeah.
Like just that weird label of official. I would love that one day.
Have you ever interviewed anyone that's worked for Lucasfilms before?
Yeah, I've interviewed artists that have worked for Lucasfilm, and I've interviewed people who have worked there and done all kinds of levels of
Hmm.
stuff. A guy that wrote tons of the making of books. I interviewed him. The lady that organizes Celebration, the big convention. I interviewed her, and everyone's stories are fascinating. But Lucasfilm seems like such an interesting company where they very much they pay attention to their fans, and um a lot of these people started as fans
Yeah. Yeah.
that that have gone to, and I'm not saying that's like, I'm not saying I should, or I think I'm like,
Hey, if you're going to dream big, right?
yeah.
Dear Lucasfilms, get in touch with Jason Gibner.
It's not like I send them an email once a month or anything. I
Oh,
wouldn't do
yeah.
that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I would never do that. Be like obsessive.
Oh, thanks,
Well, thanks
Jason.
for having me.
If you'd like to see pictures of Jason and his paintings, head over to DetroitCraftAcademy.com. You'll also be able to find links to his website, podcast, and information about the Bang Dance Party. And that concludes episode number 3. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I'd really love to know what you guys think of the show, so if you could head over to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud and drop me a review, that would be awesome. And until next week, keep perfecting your craft.